Today, creme brulee, not screwing around. It's definitely a family favorite. I've had a couple of requests now from you lovely people out in there on the interweb. So that's what we're doing, creme brulee today. So I'm going to walk you through all the steps. Typically fine creme brulee, not everybody does it at home. It is so easy. There's 1, 2, 3, basically 4 ingredients and a little bit of time. So it's really not this monstrous baking process that goes a little bit nuts, but most everybody loves creme brulee. It's a family favorite in my family, so why not make some brulees? We got a special occasion tomorrow, and I'm gonna surprise somebody with some homemade creme brulee. So without further ado, why don't we just get cracking at this? So I'm doing a fairly good sized batch because we're gonna make a few, give some away, and it's gonna be fantastic. So I'm gonna do a 1.5 liters of 35% cream. Okay, I've already got it in my pot here, but I wanted to show you just a quick little trick. Everybody gets measuring cups out and all these things. 1 liter is 4 cups. So we want half of this. Well, how do you know where there's half? Open it up, okay? If you poke your little eye in there, drive your finger down along the side, it creates a shadow, right? So when the shadow goes away, there's half, okay? Just a fun little trick, not a big deal, okay? I've got 1.5 cups of just regular granulated sugar. I'm gonna put half of this, so 3/4 cup, right into our cream mix, okay? Fire it in. We're gonna reserve the rest. That's gonna go into our eggs. Just a quick whip. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put this on high heat, and we wanna actually bring it up just to a boil. So when you get those first couple of bubbles, stop. So we're kind of going just past scalding, but actually not to a full rolling boil. I'm gonna get this on the stove, we'll get to some more stuff. Actually, before we do that, we're forgetting one crucial ingredient that we're gonna want in here. You saw the picture of the vanilla beans. These are from Mexico, beautiful product. Actually, it's a beautiful presentation, to be very honest. So what we're gonna do with this is we got a vanilla bean out, 1 pod. So this is the bean itself that comes off the tree. We're gonna cut it lengthwise, right down the middle, both sides. So what we're gonna see, we got all these beans lined up inside. So try and lay it on its back and take your knife and flatten it and remove as many of those seeds as we can. There we go. So you can see all these beautiful little seeds. Okay, we'll get them back on the other side. Fire those in the pot. Same thing with the other side because we cut it in half, right? Right down the middle, as best you can. There we go. Look at that. Millions of beans, millions of little seeds in that one bean. So wonderful. Made a little mess on my board. That's fine. We're also going to take the actual beans themselves, fire them in. Okay. So again, onto the stove, coming up to as close to a rolling boil as we can get. So this is just going to take a few minutes. Be patient, and up it comes. Okay, so while our cream is on, we need to separate some eggs. So I'm doing 16 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs. So not to burden you, I didn't do all the eggs. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do the last one, just in case you don't know how to separate an egg. Let's go ahead and do that. Just give it a quick crack. I always use an extra bowl, just so I can put all the scraps in there, right? Where the whites are going to go in there, the shells are going to go in there, not a big deal. So there's a couple different techniques that we can do. If you just break it in half, you can take the actual shells and go back and forth. I find that to be an utter pain in the ass. So what I do, fire it in my hand, go back and forth a little bit, and there we have a perfect yolk. Done, not a big deal. Get rid of our scraps. Next, what we're gonna do, is we're gonna take the rest of our sugar, and we're gonna incorporate that into the eggs. One thing that you gotta be careful about is adding your sugar in too early and not paying attention to it. it'll actually start cooking the eggs, ironically. I've run into that a couple of times throughout my career. All of a sudden I've got these weird kind of curdled eggs. So let's fire these in. Here we go. Got our sugar, egg yolks, again, a couple whole eggs. Give it a good stir. And we want to make sure that we're breaking everything up. We want to incorporate all that sugar, so you can be a bit aggressive, right? Give it a good push. That's it. There we go. So we're basically halfway there already. Again, like I said, super quick, super easy, but yet a fan favorite, and it's just a fun little project to do. The part that I love so much about the brulee is that cooked custard, right? You get that really nice, rich, creamy custard, super good, and of course, can never forget the actual torching of the sugar on the top. Classic, right? Super French. Everybody knows exactly what it is. Okay, just coming up to that boil, right? Just getting it started. We want to turn that off, give it a good stir, and let's get that off the heat. Okay, you can see it coming up. Let's get this off the heat, just super quick, and we're going to be ready to start tempering our eggs. Cream's off the stove. Next is tempering the eggs. I'll get to what actually tempering is just in a second. But I do want to show you just a quick little trick. One of the difficulties that you typically find is how do I get my bowl stable when I'm adding liquid into something else? Well, fun fact, just take a tea towel, spin it around a couple times, make it look good, put it into a bit of a donut, tie it off just that little bit, take your bowl, plunk it. Your bowl's not going to move. You can be as vigorous with that as possible and nothing's going to happen, okay? So tempering eggs. So what does that mean? We've got basically a boiling liquid that we're going to put into eggs. What happens when you add that kind of heat to eggs? They curdle. We really don't want this to curdle. So we're going to take just small amounts to get started with, to bring that temperature of the eggs from what is now room temperature and increase that heat very slowly. So grab your ladle, stirring constantly. Just add a little bit, little bits. Okay, so we know for sure that this is increasing in temperature. Okay, so just patient, super easy. Get a bit more. So now that we've got about a ladle and a half, maybe 2 ladles, we can start being a little bit more aggressive with the amount of heat that we're putting in. Still being careful not to curdle. We're not making scrambled eggs here. We're making a delicate French dessert, right? So we can just start hammering it in now. Not a big deal. We've got that temperature up, and away we go. Okay, so I've clearly made way too much as I typically do. So in that picture you saw pink peppercorns. Well, what the hell does pink peppercorns have to do with creme brulee? It's actually a really cool thing. So I'm actually gonna make a couple different brulees. We're gonna do one super traditional vanilla bean, classic, fan favorite. The other one that I'm actually gonna do is chocolate and pink peppercorns. But chef, peppercorns are spicy, and who wants pepper in a dessert? Actually, the irony with pink peppercorns, it's actually a berry. It's a dried berry that has some notes of pepper. And when we get to the torching part, it's actually going to be really cool. It turns out beautiful. It's an amazing accompaniment to the brulee. So I've just got a small little dish. We're going to add some of our brulee mix into here. Fire some in. And we'll get a good amount. So that way we've got some tasters for later. And really, it's just super simple. Crack it open, take just a small handful, and fire them in. So as this is cooling down, it'll start perfuming, and we'll get some of those peppery kind of notes to it, and these fun berries. We've got just some chocolate chips. It's nothing fancy. It's what you get at the grocery store. But I'm going to just drop that into the hot liquid. Actually, just kind of making like chocolate milk with eggs. which is fun. So you can see in we get, starting to change that chocolatey color, which is fun. And now we've got a chocolate and pink peppercorn brulee. It's about as easy as that. So the versatility of, it's kind of like we're basically making ice cream. The only component that we're missing out of this is really milk. And how many flavors of ice cream are there? It's endless. So why not have some fun with the brulees as well? Put some basil in there. Put some lemon thyme or lemon balm. Put some mint in. All of a sudden now we've got this cornucopia of awesome brulees. That's just really cool. So when I had the inn, we would do a different flavored brulee. Basically every 3 days we'd have a new one coming out, and we just were super creative and having a lot of fun with these. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get them into our ramekins. Okay, so I'm just gonna move some of the bubbles, try and get some of the bubbles out of the way. So fill these up kind of to the line. Every ramekin has a line on it. Put a little bit more in, and that goes into the hot water, what will end up being our hot water bath. Okay, so now that we've got our ramekins full, ready to go, you see how I got them in a pan here that's just over top of the lip of the dishes, the ramekins themselves. So essentially what we would want to do is we want to add hot water, just straight from the tap, not a big deal, and get basically to the level of where the brulees are. So a couple things that you're going to notice in here is all the bubbles. There's a lot of bubbles. I don't want to cook the bubbles. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to let the bubbles actually dissipate for the next little while. One little trick that you can do, I'm not going to show you right now, is you can actually take your torch and very carefully torch off those bubbles. Generally what's going to happen is you're actually going to end up cooking and coloring some of the bubbles. You end up with the weird sheen. So I'm just going to be patient. I'm going to let these bubbles dissipate for the next little bit before I fire them in the oven. When we do fire them in the oven, they're going to be at 325 degrees. 40, 45 minutes, somewhere in there, and they're gonna come out, and I'll show you what that set looks like. Okay, water's in, bain-marie's ready to go, oven's at 325. Again, 40, 45 minutes, just long enough to make these bad boys set. So away we go, into the oven. Okay, so time to do the wiggle test. All you do is just push the edge of the pan. You can see that the brulee is just barely moving. Game on. It's time to come out of the oven. That's it. Brulees are out of the bain-marie, out of the oven, on a bake sheet, and really we just gotta slide them into the refrigerator. They gotta set up. You can get them in there for 2-3 hours or something like that. I highly suggest making them the night before, so that when they come out the next morning, they're nice and cold, ready to rock and roll, and away we go. So these guys are going to bed. Back in the refrigerator. See you guys in the morning. All right, yeah, well, it looks a little different here. Not going to tell you where I am. Told you yesterday that was a special day, but I don't want to get anybody in any kind of trouble, let alone myself. So forget about it. Brulees, right? This is what we were talking about. We made 2 different kinds. We got the traditional vanilla, and then we got our milk chocolate and pink peppercorn. So they sat in the fridge overnight. They've set up beautifully. There's no wiggle to them, so we know that it's set all the way through. Next is the fire show, I guess, if you want to call it a fire show. We want to hit the tops with a bit of sugar, and then we're going to hit it with the torch. So you can be fairly liberal with this. Put a fair amount on. We're not going to burn all of it. Oh, chef, why is there so much sugar on there? We're going to knock it off. Just relax. Right? So take some of it off. There we go. We've got that nice coating. You can keep a little bit of it on the top. Not everything has to come off. And you can see as you keep working it, it's filling in all those little gaps. Okay, look at that. Nice and clean. What you don't want to do is wait, right? There's humidity in the air. What's going to happen with sugar and humidity? It goes to liquid. Now you're left with garbage. It's not going to work. So let's see if we can get this trick little thing to oh, look at that. First shot. So now let's hit it with the fire. We're going to start caramelizing. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. There's really no wrong way to do this. So what I typically do is I want to get all the sugar starting to melt. And now I go back over and start caramelizing that sugar. Get a bit more consistency with that crust in the top, right? So, and you can see the peppercorns are actually burning a little bit. So it's gonna add a super unique flavor to this, where you get some of that spicy pepper flavor to it. That's it. That's it. Super easy. We're just gonna let that sit for a second. We're gonna get to our vanilla one. We're just gonna do the exact same thing. And then I'm gonna use 1 spoon and pig out, even though there's other people here, but I don't really care, right? So again, slap in some sugar. Be liberal. It's all good. Doesn't cost very much. Whip it around. Knock it back into the pan. And just take that residual again. And just go around the horn. Until there's just that littlest bit left. No problem. Get our torch back out. These torches are trick, eh? Probably only ever use them, once every 3 or 4 years. Because nobody makes brulees. Because they're a pain in the ass. They're actually really easy. And this is what this whole video is about. So again, just a quick review. Keep the torch on, usually helps. Just gonna start melting that sugar. We're not gonna caramelize right away. Some places will actually hold it and spin it. If you talk to a pastry chef, that's what they're gonna tell you to do, because they're the pastry chefs, I guess. I don't like doing pastries. I'm a savory chef, but I've torched enough brulees to know better, right? There we go. That nice consistency all the way around. It's got the same color right to the edges. That's it. There we go. 2 brulees ready to rock and roll. Not yet, love. Okay. So now what we're looking for is you can hear that, huh? Nice, that caramel. Right, super good. So let's dig in for a quick taste test. See if this custard actually works. Check that out. Custard's perfect. Nice and creamy all the way through. Gonna give it a bite. Chocolate, pink peppercorns. How can you go wrong? Super tasty. Everybody's watching me right now. Super jealous for sure, right? So, second one. Again, let's take a look at the custard. Custard's bang on. Looks good. It's nicely set. Another quick bite. Get some of those, all of those vanilla notes, as we saw in that vanilla pod yesterday, full of beans. Outstanding. I don't want to talk to you guys anymore. I'm just gonna go eat, eh? Stay safe. Love you.